Good afternoon, morning, evening, gamers. My name is KarQ. It is currently Thursday, October 17th. That means Season 13 has been out for 2 days. Hopefully some of the most upvoted questions for Reddit this week are related to the season, but if not, I'll try to pick a few. Here we go. Aha, first question that had a lot of upvotes is actually, what are we thinking about the Juno nerfs? Of course, this is referencing the Juno nerfs that came Tuesday, October 15th for Season 13, where fall off range was reduced from 30 meters to 50 meters to 20 to 35 meters, and the healing per projectile was reduced from 6.5 to 6, which is about a 7.5% nerf. The big thing here with the fall off range, without reading the rest of the post, is that there is both damage and healing fall off beginning at 20 meters. That's basically Roadhog hook distance. If you're playing further than Roadhog hook distance, you're going to start healing less and you're going to start dealing less damage. I think fall off caps at about 50% reductions. You're going to be healing 3 per projectile and dealing what, like 3.5 per damage projectile past 35 meters at max distance. It just begins at Roadhog distance. 35 meters is not that long. All right, let's read the rest of the post. I enjoyed playing her in Season 12, as did a lot of folks from the sound of it, and I agree she was a bit too overtuned. She felt like a required pick on every team, but we generally didn't mind because she was also fun to play. I'm not sure what nerfs I would have picked up had it been up to me, but if you ask me, the fall off nerf ain't it. The heal nerf, I'm okay with. I've definitely put up some insane numbers playing her as a heal bot, and I've seen some top support streamers do the same, but the fall off nerf, oh man, I have so many issues with it. For starters, I think fall off is a crappy mechanic in general. The game hopes you just know that your gun even has fall off and gives you very little to help gauge what 20 meters is in a game. It takes a long time to develop a feel for your character's fall off, and every time Blizzard tweaks it, you have to relearn that feel. For example, the Cassidy experience. I wish there was some sort of HUD element that made it easy to tell you exactly how far away your teammates were, like maybe a green aura at less than 20 meters, yellow at 35, red at 35, something like that. I'm sure the devs could figure it out. I think this is a pretty good idea if they actually implemented this, but for you, Reddit poster, and anybody listen to this, ping your target, ping a teammate, and you can literally see the distance over the ping. It'll tell you 20 meters, 21, 25. So as long as you know the fall off range begins at 20, ping an enemy, and then you'll kind of get a feel for it over time. You won't have to ping them every time for distance, but you know what? Pinging is actually a pretty good habit to get into for the person you're shooting. So you know what? Do it. Secondly, I just don't think that Juno has the survivability to hang out in the 20 meter range for very long. Sure, she's evasive, but she's not that evasive. None of her abilities grant invulnerability or healing. They're all pure movement. Compared to Moira, who is tasked in hanging out in a similar range, which is 15 meters healing, 20 meters damage. Moira gains life from grasp. Sorry about that, my chair is squeaking. Can heal herself with orb and has arguably the best evasion button in the game. In Fade, Juno has nothing to compensate for her 225 health except for a move fast and have small hurt box, which does nothing to save her from AoE and lucky shot. Like I said before, I'm not sure what I would have changed instead, but that's why I'm not a developer for one of the most prestigious game companies out there. They can do better than this. What do you guys think of the changes? Personally, I'm putting her somewhere between C tier and actually throwing tier, but maybe I'm dooming. I hope they either partially revert the nerf or give her more HP or do something to bring her back in line with the other supports. So my thoughts after playing, I played about 12 ranked games on day 1 of the patch. Around GM3 to Masters 2 lobbies. I was doing with Wanted, who is a top hit scan main. I was mostly playing Baptiste. I did not personally play Juno in those matches, but I locked in Baptiste because he obviously got the recoil buff, but I had a Juno for like 6 of my 12 games. I went 10 and 2, by the way. I really like Bap this patch personally, and I actually think Bap Juno works pretty well with the Orisa Brawl, who's pretty meta right now, which is what most of the tanks I played with were. But I'm not gonna lie, I still saw a lot of Junos, even on my team and the enemy team. If I wasn't, I locked in a lot of Juno last season, and the enemy team played a lot of Juno brig still, to be completely frank with you. I don't think she is C tier. I think it's a nerf that was necessary because she was an outlier. She was picked in like 99% of your matchups. Like, that is too much, right? Juno brig fitting with everything. They nerfed the fall off range, which means you can't play her on every map. Long distance maps, like maybe Junkertown Point A or something like that, makes it so playing Juno is not as ideal, where you're literally doing 3 damage per bullet. And if your team is like diving across the map, you're literally healing them for half the amount. Not as reliable. So it probably dropped her down from a must pick S tier on every map to like mid B, maybe low A still. I do think she's still really good on a lot of control maps, a lot of flashpoint maps. So anything that's relatively close range, which is like more than half of the maps in Overwatch, because even on some of the, maps have different phases, right? Even if you play Numbani, like it's pretty close quarters. Maybe second point is a little bit longer distance, but then you go back to third and then Juno's viable again because everything is within 20 meters. No way C tier. Probably still low A, to be honest with you. I still think she's pretty solid as long as you understand your spacing. And a lot of the top players do know what 20 to 35 meters feels like. And they intuitively play a little bit closer, and they're not as safe where they literally play max distance at 50 meters simply because to be effective, you also have to like speed and chase with your team and then drop the rockets or the torpedoes, excuse me, and the ultimate's still a fantastic tempo and defensive ultimate. Yeah, I think it was a nerf, a necessary nerf. If it were up to me, maybe not fall off range, I probably would have just reduced the raw numbers as well, probably cut the healing, even cut the shooting damage per projectile, and then keep the fall off range. Maybe instead of 30 to 40, make it 30 to 50, just make it 30 to 40, where beyond 40 meters you do the minimum, not 50. 20 feels kind of bad. Maybe 25 is a middle ground as well. But like even with this nerf, it feels okay so far. So that's what I think of these Juno nerfs. Still definitely viable. Definitely I'll play her if you still love her and fits in most comps still. Next question was, I don't mean to sound stupid, but how is Ana a brawl support? I always thought Ana would make sense with a poke comp, but I routinely hear people like Spilo say she is brawl. I've only been playing the game since February, so I take his word for it. But in my head, she just screams poke, right? She relies on sight lines, she's pretty diveable. I know she has sleep, but at times it can be easy to force out and has low mobility. I mean, she has a long distance scope. All of these point to a poke support because you want to play at range. Have I not understood the different types of comps? I mean, okay, you're not wrong. Everything about her kit screams poke, but if you're going to play poke, you probably want to pick someone who can actually stay in the open sight lines and pressure and shoot them nonstop while strafing, like Baptiste, like Ilari, like Kiriko. The thing with Ana is if you're going to sit there and poke, you have to like scope, because if you're doing unscoped shots at long range poking at the enemy team, it's wildly inaccurate. But if you sit there scoped, it's better. But guess what? In poke comps, a lot of teams often end up playing Widow or Hanzo or snipers, and they're going to have a much easier time to kill you if you're scoped in as Ana. So that's her one big drawback, forcing her to scope in and have super slow movement speed. If your shield goes down, your Sigma or whatever, at that inopportune time, you are dead instantly. So that's why Ana a lot of time played with Brawl, because Brawl with like, Ram or Orisa and stuff, you can make use of the anti to open things up. You can sleep defensively if they're in trouble. Works better in Brawl, but does have a lot of properties of poke. It's not like she's unplayable in poke. You can do it. Like they're not always going to have a sniper and it's ranked solo queue. Like even if you fall into that, you can still definitely poke them. But she just fits better with Brawl is basically the takeaway point. And poke is just a little bit... has some pretty glaring weaknesses if you force her in poke, but still doable. That's the biggest takeaway. Also in poke, it's very hard to like land long distance sleeps and nades because they're playing so far away, right? So with Brawl, things are a bit closer and scrappier. You can make use of your cooldowns. Her kit isn't solely just the way she scopes in and her style and archetype. It's kind of like how the hero plays out in reality. Okay, how are you actually supposed to rank up as support? Every time I see someone give advice to a support, let's say an Ana player, as I am also one, there's always people just saying, oh, it's fine, just DPS and you'll rank up, which yeah, good to know, but what's the point in just DPSing and getting 1 to 2 kills while the rest of my team dies to the rest? And sure, DPSing will get you decently far. I can attest to that as a former Moira main who went from gold 4 to plat 5 by DPSing, but then you get to the point where it's just not working anymore. I've seen Spilo do VOD reviews for support players a couple times. It's been helpful, but even when I'm doing well, I still lose because my teammates aren't doing well. So to ask again, how am I actually supposed to rank up as support? The advice of it's fine at DPS, you'll rank up. This is mostly to encourage people to DPS more, but it doesn't mean you're exclusively doing DPS. That's not the same thing. It's because a lot of like, gold and metal rank players fall into the trap of heal botting only as their one playstyle. You have to decide what's better value at that point. Encouraging you to DPS is good because you need to add that to your playstyle, because there will be a time and a place in every single game where you're supposed to DPS more often, then dial back and then heal for a little bit and figure out which one adds more value at that current time. You'll never know how to add value as to DPS if you never try DPSing. So DPS a bit more to learn, but then figure out which one generates more. So you get 1 to 2 kills while 4 of your teammates die, then you're spending too much time DPSing, and that's not the correct priority in that given game state. If there's no one who needs heals, poke them for a bit, DPS. If you find them out of position and you can sleep them and convert a kill with your shot and nade yourself, that's the correct play, for example. But the wrong play is to stay scoped in and DPS them while your Genji is like low, but he has blade ready and you have nano ready. That's incorrect. You know what I mean? You have to make that assessment. Sure, DPSing will get you far, blah, 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 but you get to the point where it's not working. And DPSing will always be viable in terms of like adding supplemental damage to the enemy team. Besides like Mercy and like Lifeweaver, a lot of good Anas will always still have like finish the game with like 2 to like 8,000 extra damage along with lots of healing. If you have less than 1,000 damage in like a 20-minute game, I would say you're just missing value. You can certainly still win because there will be games where just heal botting did end up working, but it will not be as consistent and you are missing just too much value. Think about it this way. Each kill is worth 1 point, okay? If you're killing 2 but you're losing -4 because your team, how can you even that out? If you can killing 1 is equivalent to saving 1. Not really. Some are worth more than others depending on who they are, what they play, etc. But for the simple analogy and explanation, if I can convert 1 kill at the expense of 1 person's death on my team, that's kind of an even trade. Might be worth it depending on spawn distance and hero, but that's the way to do it. So if you're getting 2 and 4 people are dying, that's not good value. If I can't find a kill, but there's a chance I save someone, so it's 0-0, that's pretty neutral and that you're probably doing just fine. So am I gonna sacrifice my position? If I can kill 2 and I die for it, that might be worth it for sure. Like you never know if you're going to kill someone because it depends on how the enemy plays, but it's a lot easier to just heal someone and make the safer play. But yeah, that's how you're supposed to rank up a support besides like, Mercy and sometimes Lifeweaver, but good Lifeweavers are actually adding a lot more damage now thanks to the changes. So oh my god, another support question. At what rank are supports no longer expected to heal bot? For context, I alternate between low plat, high gold. I usually have even healing or DPS or slightly higher DPS than healing unless my tank is standing in the open and I have to heal constantly. A pretty common example is I'll finish 7k DPS, 7k healing. Other supports 2k damage, 12k healing. If we win, obviously everyone's happy. If we lose, the other support says back is hurting from carrying the heals and it's obviously my fault we lost because healer diff. At what rank do people stop looking at pure healing numbers, begin to look at the bigger picture? I sometimes turn off chat and it may be about that time. Well, this is context dependent. You didn't even tell me what hero you play, right? If everybody wins, everyone's happy, and if we lose, it's healer diff. At no point do people stop looking at it. Even in high elo top 500, people will still do it because the scoreboard is just an easy way to deflect blame and to like see if that's the issue. But it could have just been a pure team synergistic issue. People are just like not synced up at all. But the bigger picture is hard to interpret in like a 10-second post-match defeat screen unless you sit down and analyze everything. Probably a little bit too much if every game is like this because every single game should be different. If you're consistently getting 7k DPS, 7k healing, you are certainly, depending on the hero you play, let's say Ana, for example, prioritizing DPS very heavy. Was that the correct play in that specific game, depending on what your other support plays as well, right? You don't even tell me what other support they're playing because it changes every game. Like if seems like your constant play style and it looks like you're not also adapting as well. You have to adapt. Not every game is going to call for this, and not every game is going to call for this kind of healing or this kind of DPS. Depends on the tank. Depends. So you need to adapt. The one thing I will say, similar to the last question, it's good that you are actually doing this because I said earlier, a lot of metal rank or just newer support players skip out on a lot of missed DPS, but now you're doing it too much where you might be missing out on healing. Won't know until I watch your VOD, but you get the point. How do I counter a good Widowmaker? I have now had 3 games in a row with a competent Widow on the other team, and I don't know what to do as a DPS. I can't out-sniper. Any pick I can't go around a corner. Anytime I flank her, she has a Mercy staff up her ass. I am no good at Sombra. Oh, Sombra just got nerfed in terms of like staging and getting into position, so Sombra's not even a good choice anymore. I can't hit the little cube thingy. It seems like the only way to counter her is a team effort, and even that, it's difficult. I am in the pits of elo hell mid-gold, so no one is talking in VC. Please help if there's anything I can do as a solo player. Sometimes you don't have to challenge her. If you are simply losing the duel, you have to shoot elsewhere. And yes, a little reliance on the other team to shoot them, but you can pressure elsewhere. If you are simply just losing the sniper duel, or you can't play Sombra, well, not so much Sombra anymore, or any hero, to pressure her out, shoot something else. And even if you don't kill her, like even if you shoot a few pellets on her as soldier, if you find a time where she's shooting someone else, if you hear the bullet trail pew and it's not you, she can only look at one person at a time. You can quickly peek out, pressure her in the leg, and it makes her, oh god, and then she has to like grapple away. That's good. That's like removing some space. You have to threaten her a little bit, or else she AFKs and standstills and just shoots forever, like it's Kovac's aim trainer. Right? That's how you do it as a damage. And also remember, you're in gold. They're also gold. A good Widow in gold won't be in gold very long. So I would argue that most Widows you'll run into are not going to be that problematic. They won't hit every shot. So if you hear the shot aimed at somebody else, you see the bullet trail, You can peek out very briefly, pressure, and if you notice she's struggling and starting to grapple away, that's your opening. If she grapples, you know she's rescoping for a shot. You can turn around, duck your head, and look down and look back up. It's a good habit to build. Those are some of your options if you're not going Sombra. Oh, something relevant to the new patch. Baptiste might be broken right now. They changed the recoil he's had for nearly 6 years, and now he feels broken. Just lethal, laser accurate precision. If you can aim and click heads, all his burst fire shots will hit the enemy's head guaranteed. If you have Baptiste muscle memory, this feels like cheating. If they're going to keep this recoil, they need to reduce the damage or he's going to be a problem. I don't see a competent Bap player ever losing a DPS 1v1 again. I also feel bad for Pharah and Echo. Good luck navigating around this monster. Well, I did play 7 games of Bap yesterday, and I went 7-1. I went 10-2 overall. I did play some other heroes. I played some Ana and stuff, but I think I won 7 games. I will agree to some extent. The recoil change definitely helped the consistency of the shot and the laserness of it, but not as much as you think. He's still very vulnerable to bad positioning. You can still get caught out, get dove. Like, what good is the laser if like Winston's on you with the bubble or Diva's holding Matrix on you? I certainly still died quite a bit. If you don't see a confident Bat player losing DPS 1v1 again, think again, because the laser, if you had like good Baptiste, were already able to pull down their recoil and have pretty consistent shots anyways. And good players, competent players, also strafe not only up and down, and they also go left and right. So even if the tracer's blinking around, it's still pretty easy to miss your shots. So Baptiste players still lose a lot. Definitely for sure, I pressured some Echoes and Pharahs yesterday as well. But navigating around this monster also depends on playing in fall off range as well, right? Baptiste does lose a lot of 50% of his damage past a certain distance. So if you, these good Pharah and good competent Pharah and Echo players know how to space, Echoes will like sneak up on you. Pharahs will play max distance anyways. I don't know about broken. He certainly feels a little better, but I'd grade Bap like probably A tier. Still a really good hero, but definitely not must pick. I still saw a lot of I was forcing Bap, but the enemy team still ran a lot of Juno Brig. I saw Ana Brig yesterday. I even saw Moira Lucio on a brawl map. So, you know, he's good, but not like, oh my God. But he certainly did not need this buff. I will say that. It's so much extra that I was like, okay, I'll take the buff because I'm a Bap player, but they did not need to do that to him. If everyone is critical, who is your first priority for healing? This is an issue I face a lot in both comp and quick play, and oftentimes I get flamed because someone dies and I didn't understand I can't burst heal. They didn't understand that I can't burst heal everyone simultaneously. I think naturally in the moment I will go tank, then support, and lastly DPS. I feel like DPS are the most mobile and have the most ability to quickly take cover, find a health pack, or wait a few seconds for me to heal up the rest of the team. Tank becomes my priority because I often find they're the most prevalent in a team fight, so I might heal them up to half, throw a nade, whatever burst cooldown I have, and then do my best, then turn to my support and keep focusing them to keep alive. In my head, if my support is alive, they can help keep the rest of the team up. What do you guys think? This depends. The priority is an okay base mindset to have, but like, do not rely on this because every single game will have a different scenario. You say lastly DPS, but not all of them are going to be mobile to find cover and quickly take cover. If you have like a tracer and stuff like that, and depends on the hero you play. If you're a brig with health packs, brig packs, you actually should not really be throwing them on tanks. You should throw them on your Genjis, your Sombras, your other support, your mobile heroes, because they're easier, and let your other support heal them. So like honestly, this priority mindset, maybe I take it back. Maybe don't necessarily follow this, because again, it really depends on the support you play. Are you the main support? You're playing Bap Lucio. Your Bap arguably should be popping and pumping the tank as a priority because they're the easiest, and that's how you play it. And if you're the Lucio, you kind of follow the other tracer around, or you can play clumped a little bit depending on the map. But in general, your first priority should be who's in the most immediate danger, because the death is the worst outcome, right? So who's in the immediate danger without any cover, because not all of them, again, are mobile to take cover. So if I had to choose, I think I had a situation yesterday where my Cass and my, who was I playing? I was playing Bap, and I had a Juno, and I had a Cass in Rialto first. I think we were attacking, but we're in the room, and they're about to walk into us. Cass was standing a little closer, and then I had a Juno. I threw a lamp down, and when you're lamped, obviously they can't die, but as soon as the lamp went down, I turned around and shot my Juno with my heals, because if Juno stays alive, that line of thinking here seems worked in that scenario where I turned, kept my other support alive Juno, relied on the Bap lamp for my Cass to kind of stay in there for a moment, and then the Juno would help heal the Cass. So I make sure the Juno doesn't get hit by random spam. I hit her literally one heal to put her like from like 60 health back to like 120. I 180'd, And then me and Juno shot our cast because he was closer to the imminent danger of them incoming. And we both pumped the cast in 1 second and brought him back to full health. He got swung at a little bit, and then I kept healing the cast. I didn't turn around for my Juno because I recognized my Juno was now obviously kiting and back into a safer area. So it's not necessarily whoever is lowest HP needs heals, it's whoever's in the most danger. And Cass was the one getting rounded on the corner. He was the closest to the enemies around the first piece of cover. But I did, for the moment there, prioritize my Juno a second ago, but it depended on the game state. So that's your answer. How do I know when to switch off Brig, or anyone for that matter? I'm trying to learn how to play Brig, but I know she isn't a great choice in every game. How do I know when to play her or not? I figured an obvious sign would be if the enemy tank is switching to Ramasha, but aside from that, how will I know when to switch, and how do I know who to switch to? Thank you. Generally in Overwatch 2 Brig, you do it if they have like I would say minimum 2 or more dive, flanky, mobile heroes that are harassing other people on your team. Tracer, Sombra, Genji, Winston, Diva, Ball, Doom, anything like that, even like an annoying ass Lucio that's jumping onto your backline. If you are a Brig, your whip shot is your peel tool. It pushes people away. The best time, that's when I would play Brig. I would switch off Brig if the enemy team is probably playing long range poke. If the enemy team is playing Hanzo, Widow, Sigma, Bap, Zen, who do you whip shot? The Sigma, that's a front to back comp, and if you're a Brig standing there with your shield up, who do I whip shot? The only closest person I can whip shot is Sigma, but he has a shield up half the time. So I get 0 whip shot value, which means lower inspire value. I'm just sitting there chucking heal packs, but that's it. I don't get inspire value. I can't even walk up and swing safely on the Sigma, because as soon as I let go of my shield and swing out in the open, Bap, Zen, Hanzo, Widow, long range, Ashe, whatever, long range poke kills me. So poke is probably one of the worst comps for Brig to play into, and that's the best time to swap. Brawl really depends. Usually you don't play too much of it. Brig is mostly like a deterrent for a dive. There are cases where you can definitely play like Sig, Bap, Brig, kind of like pokey style when it's really close range and really safe while the enemy team has dive, but it's mostly an answer to the enemy team, less so with your team. And yeah, if they play Brawl, a lot of times you just have to like, you can't stay in there and take Brawl and swings by the Ram or the Rhine, so you have to bash out and you can only whip shot. So switch off Brig when they have poke, and sometimes Brawl, usually Brawl 2. Heroes that don't have a hard counter. Last question. Hey y'all, I played Overwatch 2 for months, got gold in all my placements, plat in open queue, which I'm happy about. This in mind, who are some heroes I can one trick pony, OTP, and be generally fine in most comps and most matchups? My current picks are Ram, DPS, Cassidy, support, Moira, Ana, thank you. I mean, there's some that are that don't necessarily are better generalists and don't have as much of an annoying hard counter. But the thing with counters, I answer this every week, is that you can play into counters. You just don't have to engage with the counter in some cases. In a lot of cases, people used to think Zarya counters Diva, but if you're a Diva, just simply space correctly and do not stand near the Zarya when she's high energy and hold your matrix up in front of her. Just because beam goes through matrix doesn't mean she counters you as a whole. She can counter that ability if you stand in that range, but you have the agency to not engage. So Ram, generally pretty safe, but quote unquote can get countered by like Orisa in some cases. She can spear you and space you out and then pressure you when you're not in your nemesis form. Cassidy's pretty safe in terms of like being bulky, durable, but like offensively, he might be pretty weak in some matchups. Like you don't have to think about this game that heroes that don't have a hard counter, and think more about a priority of playing with your team rather than playing to not get countered. I don't think it's the right mindset. I just don't think it's like a healthy mindset to think. But your picks are okay. Moira, Ana, they're generally pretty safe. Kiriko is pretty safe. Cass is pretty safe. Ram's pretty safe. Honestly, even Diva is pretty safe. Diva might be one of the safest ones. But again, you're supposed to play to the synergy of your team and the synergy and like how the map plays out with high ground, low ground. Okay, so it didn't necessarily answer the question, but because I just don't want to like feed into the heroes that have hard counters for you. Okay, thanks for listening to my Reddit of the week. Goodbye.